Hi, my name is Mark Biernot, and I'm getting a PhD in economics, specifically monetary economics. In this video, I'm going to talk about why the United States grows so fast and what is the evidence that the United States is growing so fast. Whenever somebody makes a claim, I often ask them to send me a link or show me the data. The data that the United States is growing fast currently is the GDP grew at 4.9%. 4.9% is on par with developing nations. Rarely do you see such growth in mature, developed, postmodern, post-industrial countries. It's growing heroically. And supporting that, the poverty rate is going down, the Gini coefficient is stable, the real GDP per capita is increasing and real wages are increasing at a rate of 1.2%. Even though we have 3.7% inflation, we have an increase of wages faster than inflation. So you have average medium incomes increasing across the United States. And that is not accompanied by a divergence between the rich and the poor, necessarily as manifest by the Gini coefficient. And we also have a decreasing monetary base. $74.1 billion. The Federal Reserve, if you qualify money as M2, which is a fairly narrow classification of money, there's M0, M1, M2, M3, etc. But M2 is pretty accurate. It's decreasing at a fairly consistent rate. And so if you've got real wages going up, if you have high growth rate, 4.9%, real wages going up by 1.2%, and if you have unemployment at 3.8%, and in some states it's as low, like if you go to Vermont, North Dakota, South Dakota, it's in the 1% range. Generally, we have frictional unemployment. That means people are between jobs, not structural or cyclical. Yes, someday we will have a recession, okay? That's one thing you can count on, but not today. That's just normal expansion and contraction of a business cycle. Just like if you're on an athletic field, afterwards, you take a rest. In the case of markets, usually it's prices adjusting so the markets can go back up to a higher growth trajectory. So if you have 4.9% growth, where is this coming from? The place that is coming from, the growth is, and the job growth, track to job growth, is in the technology sector. That's supported by healthcare, education, and in addition, expenditures on capital goods, as well as consumer goods, which is the largest component of the US economy. But technology really drives it. We're at the beginning of an S-curve, which people can't comprehend how fast this is changing. If we have a labor shortage, even in states like Vermont, North Dakota, South Dakota, that's the impetus to create more technology-based replacements for workers. And that's actually a positive thing, because that means we can spend our time and our free time doing other things. As long as you participate in the capitalistic process, that's a positive thing. Now, why is this happening in the United States? Many people disparage the United States, and a lot of sensationalist amateur economists on YouTube, which I am open to, as long as they present evidence, and I mean statistical evidence. I mean evidence from the Federal Reserve, and they give a logical argument. Why is this happening? A lot of people, again, they're disparaging the United States and sensationalizing it. It's happening because of this American spirit of capitalism. You know, to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, the free market is the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you're from, who you are, what your background is. If you have a good idea and you work hard, you can succeed. That's Ronald Reagan. Doesn't care about who you are, where you're from, or your background. If you have a great idea or a good idea and you work hard, you can succeed. It gives the greatest reward to those who serve the greatest. That is, the work the hardest and have the greatest ideas. I know it doesn't seem fair all the time, but that's the reason for the American success. And it seems that all boats are going up in a rising tide. If it wasn't, the Gini coefficient would be expanding exponentially, as is the growth rate. You say the growth rate is not expanding exponentially, but let's take a look at the growth and exponential equation. If you've ever done let's say linear algebra or algebra, the equation is y equals a times b to the t power, b being the growth rate. So if the growth rate is 3.9%, that's the current A, the current GDP, times 1.039. And then the exponent t is the number of periods it expands out. Of course, we're not going to sustain that, but that is exponential growth, and it occurs on a linear pattern, not on a nonlinear pattern. And no country in the world, even though we're, I believe, 26 on the corruption index in terms of transparency, and we are not the highest on the freedom index. I'd say we're number one in terms of the American Spirit Index, in terms of capitalism, this idea of acceptance of other people, the idea that we don't care where people come from, who they are, and as long as you have a good idea and you work hard, in the words of Ronald Reagan, you can succeed. That is the reason we have this growth rate. It's that fueling technological growth. Think of the big tech companies. They're just not giving up. There have been predictions 10 years ago that this would start to taper out. Just like in the 1800s, they believed that technology, even economists like Wicksell believed technology would start to approach a linear path. We don't know the extent that we're on this S-curve. It doesn't look like we're pulling back. So when you're talking about countries with alternative systems and alternative mindsets like Russia, like Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Iran, who are bad actors in the world, they don't stand a chance against the American spirit. And the American spirit is, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what your background is. If you have a good idea and you work hard, you will succeed. And when you succeed, it's enlightened self-interest. You're thinking about yourself, but society as a whole, as long as you're acting in a positive, good way, will benefit. And the aggregation of that collective unconsciousness and the intersection of these minds and the great spirit makes the United States growth rates almost unstoppable. And again, we will have our pullback sometime, but right now, just bask in the 4.9% growth, 3.8% unemployment, and the 1.2% increase in real wages and medium income without a expanded Gini coefficient. If you have questions or you'd like to present evidence, not just commentary, but evidence, leave a comment below. Hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.